and I will.
All right.
Go ahead.
Welcome to Outside the Overton. This is not the Pendulum Podcast. We're changing things up a little bit today. Rodney couldn't be with us, so it's just Zeb and myself, meaning it is Outside the Overton. And it is out camera? Okay, so we had like kind of an emergency meeting beforehand, so we're kind of getting things in order right now, doing it on the fly. But today we're going to be talking about the Trump tariff plan. Now, Trump, he's been talking about the tariffs a lot. You know, they were a part of his campaign in 2016, no doubt, though they were sort of on the back burner compared to things like immigration and the border wall. But now they're kind of coming out in full force. And Zeb and myself were kind of critical of this. We would prefer to prioritize immigration. But this time around, it seems like he's very adamant about the economy, which, again, not a bad thing, but that's not quite what we had hoped. However, credit where credit is due. I can speak for myself. I don't know about you, Zeb, but the tariffs, they were very kind of wishy-washy in the beginning. We didn't have a clear layout. We didn't have a clear plan of what was supposed to happen and what kind of implementation would be put forward. And me personally, I was a little concerned that these were going to be reciprocal tariffs, meaning using the tariffs to get other countries to do what we want. And then once they did, there would be no more tariffs, which that is a useful strategy. But I was kind of hoping, and I'm sure, Zeb, you were hoping as well, that the tariffs would be almost permanently put into place as a way of funding our economy, as a way of funding our government, other than through taxes.
Well, yes. Everything that Trump does, I would like to be permanent. I mean, that's why I advocate for a stronger executive branch. That's why I advocate for less term limits, because what is done needs to at least be established long enough to work. Right. And this is the thing that we're seeing the boomers up in arms about. Oh, their 401ks dropping over the last 2 days. But if you look at it over the last 5 years, they're still up like some retarded amount of money, like 300%. It's like, come on, man. I know you like money and you're greedy and you're a little dragon sitting on your stack of gold, but let's let the inflation come down a little bit, Josh. Give it some time to work. Give the tariffs some time to work. Stop losing your mind because we put a little bit of a restraint on what can be shipped in to the U.S. It's like, maybe we should tariff more. I like these reactions. I like people losing their mind. Not necessarily losing money, but I do think that it's bringing value back to the dollar. That's exactly what it's doing. When this inflation is going down, it's adding value to the dollar, because that's what inflation is. It's devaluing the dollar. It's not, your house isn't getting more valuable, dude. You didn't do anything to the house. It's the same house. It's the same value. It just costs more because the dollar is less effective.
Yeah, and here's what I don't understand is I expected this sort of reaction from the left. I've been seeing people posting how everything is in the red, and the left-wing people going, oh, I thought Trump was supposed to be like smart on stuff like this. They were always going to say that. But what's surprising to me is the conservative boomers, the like conservative Trump supporters that are shocked by this. I'm no economist, not by a long shot, but I understood that the tariffs would bring about short-term pain.
They understand that, but they advocate against it. And here's why. Because their Lord and Savior, Ronald Reagan, told them that free trade is good.
That's true.
And so that's as far as they can go. And Trump is, in essence, a type of Reaganite. His entire generation are Reaganites. And so any step out of line from Reaganomics is a no-no. Oh, no, tariffs. It's the end of the world. But I mean, the first amendment ever put in place in the United States was tariffs. I mean, this is what Alexander Hamilton built the entire economy of the U.S. on. This is what we fought wars based on, was tariffs and the funding of the U.S. through other means outside of taxing the individual. Because at the end of the day, Josh, we are not individuals. We are a society. We are a collective. We are a nation. And we have to work together. And taxing the individual as income tax or whatever else, property tax, you'll own nothing and you'll be happy. Do you own your house if they can take it from you for not paying? No, obviously not, because you're still paying on it. So let's go. Let's give me more tariffs. Accelerate this red. I mean, you look at the stock market, it's red all the way down. Man, we need to make America great again. And to make America great again, we have to go, rewind a little bit. Let's go back to 1971. What happened to a Fort Knox audit that we were going to do, Josh? Where's that been at? We're still looking for gold. Let's go back to 1971. Let's roll back this gold standard that we used to be on and get back on it. How is that going to happen without a little bit of red?
Well, yeah, and it exactly that. Like the sort of metric, the heuristic that you're kind of putting forth where we need to go back, a lot of this is ideal, but it's not like, I don't think it's even possible for us to ever get truly back onto the gold standard. However, I think that we do need to understand that the track we've been on, the problems we're in is because we couldn't handle short-term pain in 2008.
Well, because we are so scared of looking to the future and trying to predict what's going to happen logically, right? This is the entire issue that we're having socially is we always look at NAFTA, but let's take something socially. You can start with the feminist movement of the 20s. You can go into even into the civil rights, the unconstitutional civil rights of the 60s. You can look at immigration in 65. All of these things are temporary goods, if you will, and long-term evils. They destroy what it means to be American. They destroy the American nation as a nation itself. And so these people that have pushed this thing forward, largely in recent memory, boomers, they want the thing now, and they can't wait for a good later. It's like a good analogy would be like if you leave a kid at a table with a cookie, do you expect them to eat the cookie or wait? Well, the obvious answer is they're going to eat the cookie usually, unless they're really good at what they're doing. So, or they're really good at being a good kid, maybe a little bit of raisin. But the point stands is these people have no short-term sacrifice for long-term gain. And that's who we've put into office. These people are not leaders. They are politicians that suck off the system.
Well, yeah, and the thing is that even the people that do have that sort of sense, the boomers that do have that sort of sense of save now, spend later, it's still self-interested to where now that their retirement portfolios are tanking, they do not care about their children. They do not care about their grandchildren. It's how is this affecting me now? Why can't, great, damn it. Now I can't get a bigger boat. Not, I can't hand down this money to the next generation. They're all self-interested.
Well, y'all were talking about on the show the other day about how this idea of retirement has kind of just established itself, where our great-grandfathers and their grandfathers and their grandfathers, nobody retired. Everybody just worked. But this sense of entitlement has been built upon build a retirement, plan for retirement, 401k, Social Security, Roth IRA. Not that any of those things are bad inherently, arguably, but they established this idea that, I'm going to get to this finish line and then I'm going to just, be a burden on society for the rest of the time. It's like, why can't we just work? I mean, it's since I've been old enough to even think about this thing, the entire premise of my existence has been, I don't plan on retiring. I'm just going to work. Why not? What's there to retire to at 65? Sit on the couch and watch sports ball, Josh? It's not. What?
Well,
watch my 401k crash?
And here's the thing, almost everything, no matter how hard these boomers try, I know this, when we first started this podcast, it was kind of the boomer bashing podcast, but
revert.
But here's a perfect example. So during COVID, they can't even retire properly. During COVID, I couldn't find a job anywhere. And my parents lived in a gated community where the community pays a guard. There's a guardhouse. They have live working guards there. Retired people in there are mainly who the guards were. I wanted to get a job there just to like make a little bit money because I couldn't find a job anywhere else. People that are getting full benefits were taking up that minor job to where I couldn't make any money.
You know why they do that?
Because they're bored.
Because they're bored. Not only they're bored, these people go their entire lives and they say, "Oh, a sedentary life kills you. If you sit around, you lose all this health." It's like, but then they get to retirement and they want to sit around and they realize that they can't sit around, so they go and take jobs that entry-level people should be having. Because their entire lives they plan for retirement, and then when they get the retirement, they can't retire.
Oh, you know what the best part? Or they go back to school and they take up room in the classes that have a finite amount of people that they can take.
Because Josh, they want to have a degree. They've never had a chance to have a degree in their life.
That's fantastic. So they create the society that demands a college degree to get any type of job, which they did not need. They make a bunch of money, and then once they rest on their laurels, they can't do that. They got to go back to school, and they're not going back to school to get degrees in underwater basket weaving. They're getting retired people are going into business school. For what purpose?
They got to build a business at 70, Josh. Everybody knows that. You always start your business at 70 because by that time you've already learned, what to do and not to do. You've already had a little bit of trial and failure. So at 70, you're guaranteed success because you know everything.
I remember there was a story about there was one college somewhere where they were basically letting boomers go there for like pennies on the dollar. And I remember thinking, this was right after I graduated college and was in tremendous debt, where when they were old enough to go to college, it was pennies on the dollar. They didn't go because they could make money doing whatever. Now that they're old enough to retire, they can go back to college at the same rate, while I am sitting on $20,000 a year plus debt.
Yeah, I got a GI Bill though, Josh.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, a lot of boomer bashing going on. Well, it's inherently it's going to be a boomer bashing day. I mean, you're sitting on tariffs, you're seeing the stock market crash. These people are sitting on 401ks. You got they're all up in arms about their Reaganomics. And speaking on these Reaganomics and a prior existence of, you could say, the president of the United States is he had an interview with Oprah. I have this queued up. We're going to listen to it and maybe do a little reaction to it. I think it's about 2 minutes.
Last year criticizing U.S. foreign policy. What would you do differently, Donald?
I'd make our allies, forgetting about the enemies you can't talk to so easily, I'd make our allies pay their fair share. We're a debtor nation. Something's going to happen over the next number of years with this country because you can't keep going on losing $200 billion, and yet we let Japan come in and dump everything right into our markets and everything. It's not free trade. If you ever go to Japan right now and try to sell something, forget about it, Oprah. Just forget about it. It's almost impossible. They don't have laws against it. They just make it impossible. They come over here, they sell their cars, their VCRs, they knock the hell out of our companies. And hey, I have tremendous respect for the Japanese people. I mean, you can respect somebody that's beating the hell out of you, but they are beating the hell out of this country. Kuwait, they live like kings. The poorest person in Kuwait, they live like kings. And yet they're not paying. We make it possible for them to sell their oil. Why aren't they paying us 25% of what they're making? It's a joke.
This sounds like political presidential talk to me.
Josh, it sounds like political presidential talk.
Like a Marvel end credit scene or something.
Like a flashback to an alternate reality. It's like, I mean, Trump's rise has been, whatever you think about him, spectacular, if you will. I mean, he's had an amazing life, good or bad, however you take it. It's like, dude, I mean, he's been on top of the world for since he was like 23, and he's been around. He knows a thing or two. And I think at least he's consistent on his tariffs.
I agree. And I think because it's a smart economic policy. And people are willing, we don't have anything queued up right now, but you've been seeing clips all week about Obama saying this, Chuck Schumer saying this. The problem is now that it's Trump saying it. And I know I'm kind of hearkening back on a point I made just a second ago, but it's crazy to me. The people were crying for we need a businessman like Reagan to be president again. People on our side are upset that things are in the red, that we're having these sort of minimum, specifically that China said they're going to impose a 34% reciprocal tariff on us. And now people are freaking out. It's like, you wanted a businessman because we needed one, and you're not one because you think that would be best. Let him do his thing, man. Let's see where it goes.
It's spelled hoarding. Did I misspell it? I'll fix it
In
later.
the thumbnail or the title?
No, in the title.
Okay. Quick fix.
Josh, go ahead while I
This
fix
is
that.
live. Pictish Prince.
Pictish. Give me your thoughts on. No, it's live. Give me your thoughts on the tariffs real quick. I know you got a limited amount of characters to express it.
You know that guy?
He's yeah.
Okay. What did you ask me to do? You mean to
Say
just
things.
Say things. Okay.
Say things.
But yeah, I mean, basically, it's a problem that's kind of self-evident. Like I'm not an economist. I'm not even super knowledgeable. Like the kinds of political talk I'm interested in has to do more with the social aspect of things. I think once you fix once you fix the society, once you fix people's hearts, once you fix their minds, the economy will fall into place. So I'm not even super knowledgeable about these things in the first place, but I know what a tariff is. And I knew that when Donald Trump implements them, that there would be animosity, that for him to say Mexico has been flooding the market with their steel, so they basically have taken away steel manufacturing from the United States, to then tariff their steel for them. Like, we knew they were going to get upset by this, yet everyone is so surprised. I mean, the liberal, like, no one even respects that. Like, no one even acknowledges what the liberals have to say anymore, except for boomers in Fox News. The only reason I even know what Nancy Pelosi is saying is because that's all Fox News will do. The only reason I've even heard of the show The View is because conservatives talk about it. I swear to God, I would not know who I would not know who Joy Behar is if conservatives never shut the fuck up about her. So like, just move on. But what's frustrating is it's our side saying it now. It's the conservatives that don't want to give Trump a chance.
Conservatives, and this is the thing we always run into.
Yeah.
It's this umbrella,
Republicans.
this large umbrella, this big tent conservatism that Reagan created that has let in all of these, I'll call them unwanteds. I mean, you could label Elon Musk, RFK, Tulsi, all of these Democrats that are Democrats or are leftist, in theory, have been able to come into the Republican Party and giving a platform. They're just giving leadership. And what do you expect to happen when that happens? Pictish, we got a couple comments. He says, we must wait for them to affect things. Think years in advance instead of days. Exactly right. That's what we were talking about earlier. Sadly, globalism only sees what is in their hands at this moment. Yeah, I don't know if it's globalism as it's just midwits can't comprehend.
Yeah, I think globalism is kind of a, I don't know if dog whistle is the right word, but it's kind of like a empty pejorative where the amount of people that like want a globalist state for the sake of like human unity at the cost of like nations, that's not a thing. It's really like big corporations that are multinational corporations that want to maximize their profit. That's really where this is coming from, not like globalists. I mean, his comment where he says the View is globalist, I think that's true. I mean, I think those are just a bunch of retarded hens chirping away at, about human decency, man. We gotta do what's best for our fellow man. Or Joy Behar, we have to do what's best for our fellow man. So yeah, globalism is the pursuit of one world governance under LUSA. It's LUSA, FER, not FAR, and his minions.
Oh man, true builders prepare for the future and build upon it. Yes,
I mean Satan might be pushing globalism, but I mean
the tariffs are what were used before the Khazar bankers took control of global trade and pushed central bankings on the planet.
More like rabbis than Khazars. claiming to be the chosen people, but
Well, you can talk about something like the Silk Road. I mean, they didn't really have tariffs. It was more of a free trade. But the problem is, it wasn't globalism in the same sense that we think about it today. So, like we don't establish tariffs across states, right? For good reason. And in the same way, they didn't establish it across the Silk Road. But when you have nations competing with each other on the same plane, and it's a zero-sum game where something like manufacturing is, and then you're outsourcing to essentially slave labor, that's when tariffs are necessary to retain a people, at least to retain a semblance of a people and give them purpose and jobs at the end of the day. The view is nothing but and is being pushed by the Khazars, who are just people claiming to be the chosen people but are not. Yes, I mean the chosen people were quite literally Christians. This is where dispensationalism has kind of gone pushed us down the road. Along the Silk Road and all other trade routes, terrorist attacks were charged along the path. I don't know if they would be technically tariffs, but yeah. Essentially, it's not really tariffs. It's like a toll. Similar concept. Yes, I agree with you. All right, Josh, I wanna go back to this thing here.
Last year, criticizing U.S. foreign policy. What would you do?
Unless you want to talk about the chosen people, because Pictish kind of wants to.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I agree with I was going to say, I agree with Pictish. This is a misconception, especially amongst like, I don't know, Southern Baptists
Southern Bible Belt, Southern
the
Baptist,
Bible
yeah.
Belt. That I mean, good Lord, dude. Like, have you like I have to listen to Glenn Beck because of my job.
No,
that dude is.
I catch like
nuts.
I catch like 15 minutes of it after y'all show on the mornings.
I've never like. How could that like, dude? It's to the point where even if I weren't awake on the JQ, it's like this has to be idolatrous. Like he is dick riding Israel so hard. It's bananas.
Or where do you think Blaze gets their funding?
That's a fair point too. But yeah, man, it's crazy. But yeah, you're absolutely right, Pictish, that the chosen people, it's the new covenant. I mean, like they lost the blessing. They lost it. It's I forget the verse and I forget even how it's phrased, but it has to do with the vine tree, about how the stewards. What is the final fruit of the vine tree? It's Jesus Christ, who killed Jesus, his own people.
Yeah, it says
it was the Romans.
boomers are not the ones hoarding, because our bankers and their globalist-owned politicians are the ones hoarding.
They're not the only ones hoarding, but they are hoarding.
They are hoarding. Just on the Shears numbers game, they are hoarding. It's not every boomer, and it's not even specifically boomers with respect to birthday. It's mindset that pushes it. And when I say hoarding, I mean investing in a place that doesn't return to the people. It's only a return to themselves. And this is an issue I have with the stock market in general. It's a perversion of what is private civilization, if you will. You create a private equity that can be funneled money into. It creates this system of uprising oligarchy where you give power to people like BlackRock and Vanguard and State Street that then take that, or you give them money to then grab power. And so that's why you always hear BlackRock, State Street, and always having these influences in businesses and kind of make decisions on where they go socially or financially. And so
yeah, and so Pick just says he's 76. He is technically a boomer, but is not considered a global. We did a video on this, how we're not talking about all boomers, and right, there's such a thing as spiritual boomerism, and so people that are Gen X or millennials are like, we would consider a lot of them to be boomers too, because they've bought into the same sort of dogma, especially on Capitol Hill.
Yellow Mall said, "Why are you slackers not at Right Response Conference?" Josh doesn't really know anything about Right Response or Joe Webbin and
I was going to ask
those
what
guys.
that was.
It's a bunch of big names, at least in this movement, that kind of we're gearing towards. Josh is over here. Let me get off this screen so y'all can actually see us. Right Response is kind of is Joe Webbin's ministry, and they are putting on a conference that is housing a lot of people. I think they have, I think he's got an Orthodox. Steve Dace is there, which I kind of disagree with, but especially after some mishap they had. He tried to put Ray Fava through a struggle session. Anyway, try to bash on this Christian nationalist movement that we have, but they are moving forward. He's housing somebody like Andrew Eisker that just went on Tucker Carlson the other day. I mean, these guys, we're actually doing things. Why am I not there? Man, I have a family. I have things to do here. I have things to take care of, sadly, or I would be there. I might actually try to make it to New Christendom, though. That's a different story. But yeah. Go ahead.
So quickly, Pictor said, anyone shilling for Zionist are controlled. That is technically true,
Mind
but
controlled, maybe.
Yes, you cannot deny that there are people that like aren't making money, but they have been totally indoctrinated with like certain narratives. I'm not going to say which ones exactly, but like it quite literally is Jew worship, where like they hear the word Jew and they immediately think victim. And some people, it literally have had like modern day Judaism, like Orthodox Jews have been written into the biblical canon in their minds, where it's like I had someone tell me that Jewish people that are ethnically Jewish automatically go to heaven even if they don't believe in Jesus.
Yeah, it's disgusting
Bananas.
because of this phrase, the chosen people. They can't get over that idea that it's not them anymore. It's
Those
not
who
them
bless
anymore.
Israel will be blessed. An Old Testament verse. That's what the whole argument hinges on.
Yeah, well, Stone Choir did a pretty. I think they did 3 episodes, maybe 4, on kind of breaking down what is Hebrews, Israelites, and
I don't know if we can read that one. If you're watching later, go to the comments. Enjoy.
What do you say?
The very last one.
Small hats,
Sorta.
curly sideburns, and cousin breeding. That's Khazar behavior.
Khazar.
Yeah, Khazar, Edomites, whatever, however you want to put it. There is no Hebrew ethnicity anymore. True. The bloodline was so thinned out it's no longer pure enough to be. Yeah, that's exactly the case that Stone Choir makes, and I think they are correct on that.
Well, and I would love to ask someone this. They say Ashkenazi Jews are like genetically, they're like the smartest people in the planet. Do you think that comes more from the Arabian genes or the European genes?
Well, I've actually been, and that a lot of that stems from Charles Murray's book, The Bell Curve, and I've probably listened to 5 or 6 interviews of Charles Murray just in the last like 2 days, because I was supposed to have a race and IQ debate, but kind of got pushed down. What was I saying? Oh, Charles Murray. Yeah, I mean, I have a quarrel with his positioning of Ashkenazi Jews in that respect. I think he has a conflict of interest with his co-author in some of his personal life. But with regard to the rest of the race and IQ, I think he's exactly right. I actually just had a book come in 2 days ago. It's Two Truths About Race in America. What's the name of the book? Accepting Reality? I'll have to go grab it in a second. But yeah, why is John Ward not visiting you? Actually, I'm going to Pennsylvania when I'm going. Sunday. I'm going up there Sunday. We're going to live stream up there Sunday afternoon, evening, about 6. And then we're going to do, I think we're going to do another stream Monday, midday probably. So
I'm excited to watch it.
it's a long way, man. It's like 9 hours up there. We're going to pump it out, see what we can get out of it.
You want to tackle his last comment?
Intelligence is not genetic. Okay, that is disputed. Intelligence may not actually be genetic. I disagree with you, but what isn't disputed is the actual numbers related to race. And so the average IQ of whites are 100 generally. This is going to be extremely general. Or whites are 100, and average IQ of blacks are like almost a standard deviation lower of 85. And so those numbers are not disputed. Why those numbers are the way they are is what's disputed. And the question is, are they genetic? And I would argue that it would be preferable if they're genetic, because then we can know what they are. If they're not genetic, then we have absolutely no clue what they are. No, it's not cultural. It's provably not cultural.
So he says intelligence is cultural, but where does culture come from? Why do traditions? Why do certain cultural things, like even little things, just like how we treat each other, our sense of humor? Where does this all come from? There are, like, we're not saying here, Zeb and I are not saying that like you are born with knowledge, like you're born with a certain like capacity. But the point is there's this narrative now that genetics has nothing to do with it. That is not true. Genetics, we would argue it actually has a very large part to do with it. Obviously, like an African person born in America, given a good education, is going to be like appear more intelligent than if he were born in sub-Saharan Africa. But where did the education come from? Where did the institutions come from? The buck has to stop somewhere.
I would even take it further, and a lot of Asian countries will agree with you on this. It's not just that intelligence differs per race. It's that the processing of the thing differs per race. This is why the East is different than the West. It's not an intelligence thing. It's a way that they process in their minds and see the world as it is. This is why a lot of the Eastern religions have a very open, find this trail to get to the end to see the thing, and everybody is good. That's why Eastern religions are the way they are. And then you come to the West and you see everything like everything from the Vikings of paganism to Christianity of they're looking for salvation, not necessarily works. Where are we at? If a culture is subhuman in nature, then intelligence is not possible.
I'm not sure what he means by that.
If a culture is subhuman in nature, then intelligent. Nobody, I don't know if you did, but nobody's arguing subhuman. Human is distinct.
He's saying that the culture is like subhuman. No.
Not subhuman, but some cultures are better than others inherently. This is why the West is dominated.
Yeah, 100%. This is why Asian countries do better than Indian countries. Than India, and this is, I mean, just extrapolate out from there. Culture.
Centennial Lees are the best example. I mean, I'm not even.
Culture comes from people deciding to better themselves rather than sit idle. Not true. I mean, what about criminals? What about vagabonds? What about, like, cultures have dissenters within them, like a culture.
What is black culture, Josh? Is that better?
Yeah, we would not define a culture as exactly, but we would not define a culture as like what the elite is doing. Like European culture, American culture did not come from George Washington. He's a part of it. The people at the bottom are a part of the culture too, but there's norms. You know what I mean? So like,
pick this up. We're not. It's not intentionally tag teaming, and it's a little bit. We got a lot more words to get out than you do. But
we have an unfair advantage.
We have a little bit of an unfair advantage. I appreciate you running through the comments for sure. Even the highest cultures had to steal from tribes who specialize in things wrong. For example, stealing military from tribes they fought with and lost to in order to better themselves.
Well, okay, so you got to understand, we're not saying that like whites are better. That like, yes. Obviously,
I would say the Western culture is better inherently. I would also say that races are different as generalizations. This is why, I mean, you don't see Ethiopians losing marathons, right? But the problem is when you establish a hierarchy of attributes and everybody places IQ at the top, maybe rightly so. I don't know. That's not what I'm arguing for. Once you place a hierarchy of attributes up there, then it becomes a supremacist argument. I'm not arguing for supremacy. I'm arguing for differences. And until we recognize that those differences exist on a general scale across large groups, We have to make adjustments for that to happen. This is the problem. This is why planes are falling out of the sky, because we have people trying to maintain a system that was built by people at least a standard deviation above them. This is why buildings are falling to the ground. This is why boats are crashing into bridges and then not being rebuilt for another 5 years. And this is why the Suez Canal gets stopped up from a boat turning sideways. It's like at a certain point, it has nothing to do with it. It does, dude. It has everything to do with race.
And here's the thing. And here's why it matters. Here's why Zeb and I are willing to actually dispute it. Because it's not a popular thing to say. Because you have persistent, like here in America, where there is genetic noticeable differences between American blacks and African blacks, you have a problem with violent crime in that community. But what happens? Whenever, like a young man was just stabbed in the heart over a chair. When you have these problems, you always hear about the excuses. You always hear about how it's not their fault. What we're saying is you have to acknowledge the real causes. And it is not simply upbringing. It's not simply institutional problems. That matters. That does matter.
And he agrees. He says South Africa, Zimbabwe, or Rhodesia not being able to farm food without people who farmed for decades is a good example. And I would even argue it's not even a work ethic issue in this example of farming. It's a ability issue, and it's not to put one people down as subhuman, but it's simply a reality. I say it's a race, and the study I like to go to is one where they took, there's a couple, but one they took identical and fraternal twins. Identical twins share 100% of their genetics, and fraternal twins share 50% of their genetics, so your correlation is 0.5 at that point. And so what they did was these twins were adopted out to upper and lower and middle class families, and they were separated, and they tracked them over 20 years. And what they noticed was the IQ of the kids in higher income families had a higher IQ up until about 7 years old. And then it started to stabilize. And the lower IQ kids they were going up, and there was a difference. But once they reached 20, 21 years old, it was a minuscule difference. I think it was something like 5%. Or 5 points IQ difference. And so what that's saying is you can nurture a kid into a higher IQ at adolescence, but as soon as that maturity comes, there is a limit to which one is able to be intelligent in the measurement of IQ. And so that's the understanding that we have. Now the question is not is it a racial thing? It is a racial thing. The question is it a genetic thing? And if it's not a genetic thing, no one knows exactly what it is, because it's being controlled for every other thing that we can even guess what it is other than genetics. And so if it is genetics, then we can actually move forward. But until we recognize that it is or isn't genetics, then there's no forward to be moved to. It's not a denial of is it racial differences. It definitely is.
And
right? Does that make sense?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That's a lot of repetition, but I needed to make that point.
Here's the thing we need to make perfectly clear is Zeb and I are both Christians. We do not place value on individuals based on what they can produce or how high their IQ is. We're not nihilistic atheists that are like focused solely on credentials. God loves all of us equally, but we live in a civilization. We live in a society. This society has problems. One of them is crime. One of them is rioting. And we have to acknowledge it's coming. It is en masse coming from a certain group. And we need to understand why if we're going to solve the problem. Because here's the solution that we've been hearing our entire lives is, well, they don't have enough money. They don't have enough programs. So we've been flooding them with it, and things are only getting worse. It does matter what the root cause of it is. And I don't think you can just come right out and say that it's not genetics at all.
It's the exact same thing that we run into with egalitarianism between men and women. What happens is you throw all this money out to create an equal environment for men and women to transition into careers from school. And what they did in the European countries is that they created this almost a perfection of egalitarianism, and it didn't do what they wanted to do. It did the exact opposite. It created more distance between men and women because it enabled them to actually choose instead of being forced into a role. And when they had the option to choose, they created that separation. This is the same thing in America where we have this multiculturalism, and you start throwing money at things. It creates a more of a separation than it would where we were almost reliant on people that are different than us to move forward and live in life. And so when you create the ability to do the thing, and when you take away the ability of association, freedom of association through legalization or criminalization, if you will, then you force people into a corner where they have to choose. And they're always going to choose the like.
And here's the thing, you're gonna have to get used to, I know it's a naughty word, but you're gonna have to get used to segregation. And I don't mean institutionalized segregation, though it may come to that, but natural segregate. This is what you see. People naturally segregate themselves. We had talked about this before, and the thing is when you do that, you understand that like black people, Hispanic people, all people, they don't actually want to integrate. They want to be in of themselves, and yet when they do this, they want to talk about how great they are. Yet there is when you segregate people, when you categorize people by their race, you're going to notice differences in cultural outcomes. And the problem is they're not going to acknowledge their faults. They never have, and they probably never will. Individuals
I would say
individuals do.
That's largely the defining, with an exception to the Far East. That's largely the defining factor of the West is holding each other accountable within group.
Okay, so Picture says you two forget that he lived in a world before LBJ's Great Society started forcing integration. People self-segregated by choice in the past. Yeah, that's exactly what we're saying, is it not?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So like, and here's the thing: you do
Well, I mean,
see
the
in the
entire,
hold on.
Go ahead.
You see in the 50s and 60s, you do see this sort of the family unit. You see the family unit in the black community, but you're forgetting that didn't happen in a vacuum. It was after they were given all these tremendous liberties that when kind of left to their own devices, you get this sort of rampant hedonism, and that's part of their culture. They were segregated from their original culture of Africa and forced against their will to acclimate to ours. And then what happened? Once we stopped forcing it upon them, they reverted back to almost what you see. Now it's different. There has been crossbreeding within, and you do see the difference. You do see differences in IQ of American blacks and African blacks. That has to do with the education system a little bit, but it also has to do with genetics. So you can't use that as your only argument.
What is that?
Like globalism is at false for forced integration. Sure, I mean,
we'll put him at what, 50s? Yeah, I mean the rise of the suburbs is what was brought about by trying to segregate again after desegregation happened. That's why suburbs exist. They were just trying to get away and create a community where they weren't forced into segregation. But the ills that all came after segregation are very notable and bad for both sides. I disagree. Socialism in all forms is not the problem of mankind. It's not. No. I mean, we are a collective people. The radical individualism rise of the 70s and 80s is what's brought about a lot of this idea that socialism bad. Socialism as in communism is yes, but socialism as in working together as a society is not. This is why people praise safety net programs like, I mean, police, fire, road. I mean, all these things. We're not anarchists in any sense of the word. The U.S. has higher average IQ than Israel. Well, Israel's a lot of inbred, and so
is that true though?
Probably.
I mean, I would
there's
imagine.
A lot of
I mean, there's
over there.
Yeah, all forms of government. I thought you weren't a boomer. All forms of government are a level of socialism.
At least intrusive forms of representative republic. Yeah, I mean, I'm not pro-representative republic.
I'm
anti-democracy. I'm anti-democracy, but because it denies hierarchy, right? So and Stone Choir did a episode on this the other day where they were talking about the democracy allows I'm not a boomer, I'm a free man. Democracy allows for this virtue of participation, where we have a virtue of moderation. The virtue of participation allows for someone to feel good in voting for whatever they vote for, because democracy allows for them to have that virtue. And so when you have this, it doesn't matter if you're informed on the issues. It doesn't matter if you're right. It doesn't matter if you're wrong. It doesn't matter if your vote leads to a destruction of civilization itself. You are still right and morally good because you voted, because you participated in the thing.
So he says to Pictish Prince's credit, he does acknowledge the faults in democracy, where he says it's just mob rule with more work. He says, though, there is no good form of government of any sort. There's no perfect form of government, but obviously we have to
good
acclimate.
government.
We have to govern. We have to.
And a lot of it does boil down to not necessarily the system itself, where I would say democracy is the exception to this. It's not the system itself, but the people within the system or running the system, right? The function of the system is not what it is, it's what it does. It's the product of the system is what the function is. And so when you have democracy, again, it's a denial of hierarchy. And that's what everything in the world is based on. That is nature. That is natural, is a hierarchy. And so when you deny that and you allow people that have barely any computing power, much less care to actually look into the actual issues and find the truth in thing, and are not going to simply vote in for them for their own self-interest.
Man, so I want to address his last 2 points, which is when men try to control other men, they are falling into the trap of Lucifer. Self-governance is what God lays out for man through his commandments. Look, I'm just going to be honest.
Is given to God. This is talking about government. God gives authority to man to rule over other men. This is not as in a slave sense, but as in a national sense. Go, Josh.
I mean, thank you. But basically, so like just to kind of hone in on the point, because you kind of did say what I was about to say. When you say when men try to control other men, they are falling into the trap of Lucifer. So is a cop being satanic when he holds down someone who just raped and murdered a woman? Is that being satanic because he's trying to control another man? Obviously not. I mean, and just extrapolate. I know that's a niche example, but just extrapolate out from there. Okay, so if government is by its own nature evil, why did God make David a king? Why did God make Solomon a king? Why didn't he make them just this kind of nomadic anarcho-society in the desert?
Well, they did.
Well, they kind of made it into themselves.
That may be the single exception. Well, he was made king because Israel wanted a king, because they were tired of God governing them.
Directly?
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, that might be the only exception. But yeah, I mean...
okay, fair.
Because, yes. Otherwise, we would be running around in complete rebellion all the time just because we don't want a man dictating anything. This is not Christian. Anarchy is not Christian. Rebellion is not Christian in itself. Only when necessary. He was wanted to no control by God. Yeah, that's exactly right. I think we agree on that. Shoo. What do y'all must say?
We have an unfair advantage because we can say a lot, but Pictish, you probably have an unfair advantage because you're in an air-conditioned building.
Yeah, it's cooking in here, dude. My AC went out. It's been out for a little while, trying to get that fixed, dude. Josh in here sweating.
Oh, man, my socks.
Sauna.
I feel like I just walked through water.
Random.
No, okay.
Okay.
That's not true. I want to say, be on it. Do you, Zeb, I'll ask you, do you think that if God wipes Lucifer out of existence, he just sent him directly to hell, that there would be no more sin on earth? Obviously not. Yeah, I mean, of course not. And sin, we have a fallen nature. We have a sinful and rebellious nature. And maybe you say we got it from Lucifer. I mean, I would say it's just kind of the nature of free will.
It was inevitable with or without Lucifer.
Exactly. He just sped up the process. I mean, honestly, I think, it would have happened eventually, if not with Adam and Eve.
Well, where did Lucifer's rebellion come from? Because he has less free will than we do.
That's a good point.
If Lucifer was not allowed to influence man in the garden, then we would not exist.
Well, he was allowed to because God gave him free will.
No, it's not preordained.
No,
See,
no,
you're
no.
running on a hard Calvinist double predestination, which it's contradictory in itself.
I do not believe Satan was made to be evil. I don't think God can make things to be evil. He can create things in of themselves which cast shadow. So God is all good. When he introduces other beings with free will into the equation, this leaves room for failure. And that's where sin comes from. That's what sin is. Sin is not a tangible thing. Sin is the lack of God, which any free creature is able to commit, is able to do.
Yeah, it's all preordained. No, you're talking about a double predestination with Calvinism, and Calvinism is wrong specifically because of that. There is no double predestination. God said he created all things. He does not make evil. His allowance of free will allowed evil. Yeah, so we agree on that.
We agree. The first true sin is defiance of God. We agree. I just don't think that then you can then say that government, controlling another man. It's not about, governing is not necessarily controlling another man. It's just simply to say, to run a society, to run more than 5 people, to run a culture and system bigger than your immediate family.
Yeah, it's
always going to happen.
That's a good example. I mean, me being the man of the house, do I not have the ability to make decisions for my family?
Of course.
This is a smaller scale. I mean, then you go to a city, a county, a state, a nation. I mean, these are all same concepts.
Well, Cain killed Abel out of jealousy, not because he wanted his fruit or oranges. He was jealous because Abel's sacrifice was pleasing to God and Cain's wasn't. Abel got a blessing and Cain didn't.
Where did Cain go after killing his brother? To the desert.
Mm-hmm.
What are we looking for? What are we?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
Yeah, let's finish.
Just say what you mean. Don't.
Yeah, let's finish this up.
If you were here, it'd be different. But to kind of get us to, and we appreciate the engagement.
Yeah, sure.
We appreciate the engagement. But here's the thing: I don't know about you, Zeb, but I hate when people they try to bait you into admitting their point. Just say your point and then argue from there. It's going to make
what happened to Cain? He created nations that eventually got wiped out in the flood.
Cain went into the city. He became the father of the cities. Okay.
No, you can't equate cities to socialism.
Will there not be cities in heaven?
I guess the question I would have for Pictus would be, would cities not exist in a non-fallen world?
Yeah.
Would some type of hierarchy of man not exist in an unfallen world? I mean, Adam had hierarchy over Eve. I mean, these things are natural. Grace does not destroy nature. It perfects it. Cities are socialist.
I don't think cities are socialist or sinful. I mean, what is really the difference with a city to what the tribes were doing? To when they were traveling together. It's an extended, it's a society. It's an extended family together. And is it sinful because they weren't settled down, because they didn't have buildings?
Well, the fall was not Lucifer being cast down. We don't know. We don't know when Lucifer was cast down.
There was a war in heaven before we even were here.
The fall was when we recognized good and evil from eating from the tree. Tribes are familial rather. Yeah. Cities are integration or differing peoples.
They can be.
I mean, if
but
you define it like that, I mean, if you define cities as multicultural, then yes.
Yeah, we would agree with that. But a city by its nature is not multicultural. Was Jamestown
I think you just don't like cities. I mean, if we could all live on a farm, brother, I'd be there with you.
But it's just not realistic. And a city is not in a, if all the people in New York were gone, well, I guess that's not what you're saying, but like a socialist society, like you have to admit, it's a huge leap to go from cities equal socialism or even communism. I don't know. I don't really understand what the big boogeyman with socialism even is. I'm not a socialist, but like, it's kind of like you were saying, Zeb. It's the idea of like a community, like almost like a communal, not communist, but more coherent communal society.
Yeah, he said, I live 6 miles from people, so yeah, I got that. I got that the cities are evil. Dude, I honestly don't blame you. So we lived, when I lived in Dillon, we lived about, it took about 12 minutes to get into town. And it was nice.
Oh, yeah.
But you can't, what do we do with the city? What do we do with the town? It can't not exist. It has to be there for us to get things. This is why, I mean, we are even if you're introvert, we are a communal people. We have to have community with people, and that forms in the state of a city.
So I want to say that, like, obviously, like I grew up in Charlotte, North Carolina, and I would prefer, kind of a more rural area, but it also has to do with, like, mainly I'd say the problems with cities these days is it has to do with multiculturalism and the proliferation of technology such as social media and the phone. We have created a system where it's easier to be alone. And so when you get people in a city, they're more like, just today in general, they're more likely to isolate and feel more alone. And there's more, due to multiculturalism and factors like that, there's less cohesion. I mean, a city back in the day, like people people that are alive today talk about New York in the 60s, and it doesn't sound bad. Like, they're like, Officer John swinging his billy club down the street. Like, everyone knew each other back then. There's nothing wrong with that.
I'll tell you what has happened, and this may be what he's kind of hinting at, is the cities have overgrown themselves. New York has existed for a long time, a century and some change. Some of these cities, like I went to Orlando the other day, even Charleston. These cities have existed for a while, and they've overgrown themselves. And so when I was in Orlando, I left the hotel to go, like, it was less than a mile. It was like 0.6 miles. And it took me 30-something minutes to get to the restaurant that we were going to. 0.6 miles. It's because the traffic was so bad that you couldn't go anywhere because the streets and the infrastructure wasn't built for that. And so these cities were probably not that bad back in the day. And technology does lend to being in isolation. But I think the overdevelopment of these things lead to people not going out. Like, why would I want to go to a restaurant 0.6 miles away when it takes me an hour of driving?
Right.
So I'm just going to stay and order Uber or something, or Uber Eats or DoorDash. Like, but even in a kind of a dialed back sense, yeah, cities lead to this idea of Ellis Island good.
Yeah.
Religion discussion. You want to jump into that one?
Yeah, we can do that a little bit. But
we got to bounce in a minute.
Clip.
We got to bounce in a minute, but we can definitely have a religion discussion.
Yeah.
Maybe not next week sometime, depending on what happens. But
yeah, we're pretty booked next week, actually.
God is any religion, and no religion is of God.
God is not any religion. This is like my dad says that a lot. Like, I like relationship, not religion. And it's like, okay, religion.
John
John
holds this
tangled up
position
over
too, or
words,
something similar
semantic
to it.
argument.
John holds a position similar to this, I think.
Well, I think this guy's a Christian. I just don't like what he's saying is that like,
well, the Catholic Church,
institutionalized
the Catholic
religions are
Church is
bad.
Jewish.
I don't believe that.
I do. Yeah, because you're a Nick fan.
True.
No, the Catholic
that's
Church.
part of it.
Catholic Church
But-
is globalism in a religion, and that is what it is. It is Jewish in nature. That's a longer discussion. We can have that discussion one day.
I don't
Unless
know
you don't want to.
I don't know if globalism is even necessarily Jewish. You could argue like the people.
What else would it be?
Advocating for globalism these days are all Jewish.
No, I think it's spiritually Jewish. Maybe that helps.
Okay, that when you put it like that, I
I mean,
can kind of see it.
continuation
Yeah,
of the Egyptian,
okay.
Greek, Roman pantheons,
And
of
his
other
son
gods,
Jesus
probably.
Christ and the Holy Spirit.
I loosely agree with the example of the Catholic Church.
I do
Pantheon of
agree
lesser gods.
globalism is Luciferian.
With the pantheon of lesser gods or saints, you two have fun and enjoy. I appreciate it, Pictish.
Yeah,
I'm a believer in
globalism
God
is
and His Son, Jesus
anti-God.
Christ,
Look at
and
the
the Holy
story of the
Spirit.
Tower of Babel.
And the modern Judaism is Luciferian because it is of the Talmud.
I agree with that. 100%.
Yeah, I know you're older. We just got to get you on this train of understanding race realism. I wish, let me put it this way. I wish it wasn't true. If it
100%.
wasn't true, it would be so much easier. But I cannot deny reality for what I feel.
Not
And
even
so-
what you feel, just what you can observe, what you
Wish
can
to be.
deduce.
You will not change my thinking. That's the way to be open-minded. We love that. We love that. That's a very boomer attribute.
You could change our thinking. You
But
probably
it's not
won't,
for
though.
us to all agree with one another. Well, I think
That
if we're
sounds
all
like
after,
Luciferian.
yeah, that sounds very Jewish too.
Yeah.
I think if we're all after truth and we're all good faith, that we should all virtually end up in the same spot. And so, a denial of a thing simply because you wish to deny it doesn't do anyone any good. Maybe you should. I mean,
You
if you
should,
believe
though.
yourself
You
to
should.
be right, then you should.
Yeah. Okay. So for the he says, I would not seek to change your thinking. That is a very, like, I wouldn't even say the founders thought that, but it's like the kind of conservative boomers these days that worship the founding fathers. They think it's not your plate to like change other people's minds. Like it's people's right to fail on their own. I don't think so. I think we should look out for each other. And I think if there was a satanic flaw in our logic and we were making this grave sin, you should try to convince us. You can choose as God gave you free will, seeking to change the thinking or influence how other men think. So like, don't convert people to Christianity because they're already Muslim. Should we not do that? That's how that affects how they think.
We gotta let all these abortions just kill babies all over the place.
They're trying to change the way you think.
The example one man makes should be seen by others, and then they can decide.
So
No, because
what he's
people-
saying
no,
is
because-
it's not our place to convince people with our language. We have to set the example.
I don't
Which you
deny
can
that
do
we should
both.
set an example. I said, "Go ye into all the world and preach the gospel." What is preaching the gospel?
Yeah. The good news.
We're convincing people
word.
that the gospel is true.
Yeah.
It's a verbal convincing.
I could understand if you said that our discussion about race was bad, like it made Christians look bad. I could almost understand it if you said that. But what it sounds like you're saying is it's not our place to change other people's minds, just in general.
Josh, roll back.
Yeah.
Let's catch it. We got a couple of viewers now. Let's roll them back. Let's catch them up on where we came from and how we got here. You want to do that, or you want me to do it? And then we
All
can,
right,
then we
sure,
pick
sure,
up
we can
Pictish
do
as
that.
he
So
as he
basically,
pieces out.
Pictish Prince, he's in the comments, and he was basically talking about how he got started on. We were talking about the tariffs and the boomers a little bit, and then he started talking about. We got into the discussion with him in the comments about basically socialism and how like we were arguing like socialism is kind of this boogeyman, and he's saying that socialism is bad, globalism is the problem, and it's been whittled down to that man controlling another man is of the devil. And Zeb and I would disagree. We talked about race a little bit, but that's not quite so relevant to what we're talking about right now. So basically, Pictish, what are you saying now? When we are refused by a town, wash the dust of it from your feet. If they refuse to hear you, you have done what God instructed. God never said pummel into their
Yeah, but it's still an attempt
minds.
to persuade.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, like people, like I actually do agree with him on that. I think that there's some people that are lost causes.
Luther wrote an entire book on the Jews about this. The entire book of the Jews and their lies was based on Martin Luther saying, these people have hardened hearts. My words they don't take seed. That's his entire premise for the book. And yes, you are right, but that doesn't negate our position to persuade or preach the gospel to a people. Yes. Maybe, are we talking past each other a little bit? I don't think so. I think we just disagree on definitions, kind of.
Yeah, I think basically it's gotten down to a point where this is like it's kind of like this is like how my dad thinks about like scripture and stuff like that from time to time. It's like this you hone in on something like that. What was it like? Oh, if they refuse to hear, wipe the dust of the town from your feet. Therefore, like, we should not try to convince people, like, I mean, some people, like, here's the thing. You can tell with these things. Someone like, what's his name? What's that guy's name? The atheist.
Sam Harris.
No. Well, the other guy.
Matt Dillahunty.
Dawkins. Matt Dillahunty, perfect example. That guy, there's no argument that's going to convince him. He could be converted, but it's not going to be from you talking to him. I agree with you on that. But you can talk to people. You can convince people, even people with hardened hearts, but you have to suss it out. It's a case-by-case basis.
I don't think some of them you can. So, and here's why I say this.
True, I agree.
Because William Lane Craig had this debate with, was it Dawkins? Yeah.
Probably.
So had this debate with Dawkins. He asked Dawkins, they both asked each other basically, what evidence would be able to convince you that what I believe is true? And Dawkins basically said he basically said there's nothing. Even if Jesus came to me in person, he would just admit it to being a delusion. And I think that is exactly true on significantly on a lot of these atheists. They don't believe because they don't want to believe. And there is no evidence put forth that would make them believe. Even Jesus Christ himself. And this is why the Pharisees denied him. Because even they deny Jesus Christ in their face.
Yeah, and that's the thing you have to understand about people like Richard Dawkins, people just these kind of like staunch atheists in general, is their belief in atheism does not come from a rational worldview. It does not come from a lack of evidence on Christianity. It does come from daddy issues. It does come from a resentment of God. For years, I didn't think that. I thought like, oh, they have good questions. And like they do have questions that need to be addressed. Atheists do come up with arguments against Christianity that are worth discussing. But the root cause of their disbelief in all cases comes from a resentment of God.
Picture said, have you ever read William Blake's work, There's No Natural Religion? If not, I suggest you read it. Yeah, I'll give it a check out. No, I haven't, but given the title, There Is No Natural Religion, I would agree with him. There is no natural religion because it requires special revelation. A natural religion would require just general revelation. I think general revelation would get you to a point of Abrahamic religion, but it won't get you to Christianity itself, and that requires a special revelation. Also, Zeb, can you run against? Dude,
you got to read it. Dude, you got to read it so the audience can hear.
Zeb, can you run against lisping Lindsey and get South Carolina a good senator, dude?
He'd kill you.
I think I have too much to my name on social media right now to do that, especially on X. No, I wouldn't put it. I'm not. I'll table it. I'm young, man, dude. I'm 32. These senators out here, 80 years old. I got a little bit of time. Rodney is in that area of politics. He says Lindsey Graham can't be beat. I kind of disagree. I think Lindsey can be beat, given somebody run against him that could beat him. Does that logically work, Josh?
People don't even like him.
Yeah, but it's not about people not liking him.
It's the establishment.
He has too much power to be allowed to not hold that position. He has all the funding. He has all the establishment behind him. I mean, the Trump endorsement just proves that. I mean, Lindsey Graham is flip-flop back and forth every day of the week. Nobody really likes Lindsey Graham, but it's not about it. Exactly. It's about
election rigging.
It's not about being liked. It's about winning the election, and winning the election includes busing minorities to polls. This is what they do. They've been called. I think there's a couple of legislation
in South Carolina.
Yes,
like Lindsey does that.
Okay, so it's decentralized. This is a whole issue we have with 2020, and is that it's a decentralization effort. No, you can't pin it on Lindsey Graham. But when you have Democrats in towns and cities that are paying for Democrat votes, a lot of times these people that are being bussed in don't even vote on their own ballot sheet, which is illegal. That people are allowed to vote for them. And so when that happens, they just vote for whoever. And so if you copy and paste that, 100 people there, 200 people there across towns in South Carolina, you're looking at 50 counties, let's say maybe 150, 200 cities. Well, Josh, that's a lot of votes that you can't make up for. I mean, you're starting at such a disadvantage that you can't make up for it. He is less of a flip-flopper. He's more of 2 left-foot Crocs.
We appreciate the engagement. We usually don't get this level of back and forth.
Maybe it's a Friday afternoon.
That's true. You said you know this guy?
He came over from John Ward's channel. I don't know him.
Oh, okay.
I don't know him.
You don't. Okay, you don't. He's not like your cousin, is what I mean.
No.
Okay. How you doing?
He's a world champion, though. I know that. That's what John Ward calls all of his.
That's his channel.
Yeah.
Okay. World champion.
Senate should no longer be elected by the population. It should be chosen by the state House Senate.
Thoughts?
I kind of agree. But
government is evil.
But the problem nice, dude. 35. Geez, what'd you pick up? I mean, that's 4-star status. 35 year.
No pics, no proof.
Kidding. Pick just has pics. Where are we at? Senate, House, State voting for Senate. I mean, that would be more representative than it is now. Less democratic and more representative. I loosely agree, but I think you come with almost the same outcome. Lindsey still wins. You still have Tim Scott. That's just how it works. That's how it's always going to work. Also, I was not born in the USR, and my citizenship by serving and swore my oath in 1974.
Where were you born?
Yeah, I mean that's something to be debated. I think I bought my land in 84 Texas. Yeah, I think that's something to be debated. Obviously there would be caveats, but if somebody wanted to come over from like South Africa and they weren't on a trip of, let's say, asylum, then a quick and easy citizenship would be give me 4 years in the military. Easy. Done. Next.
So I got a question for you, Pictish. You said, I will die here on my land either naturally or when the government comes to try and take my property from me. What about when you die of natural causes and they take it anyway? Do you not, like, I don't know if you have any kids that you're going to pass it on to, but like basically, I'm kind of hearkening back to the whole boomer debate. Like, is it about what's going on right now? You know what I mean? We got to be a little bit more.
I mean, are we Waco? Are we
forward-thinking.
Waco in 2.0 this thing? Is that what we're looking at here?
And that's the thing. If they wanted it, they'd come take it. They're not afraid of you. No offense. They'd kill a 35-year veteran in a heartbeat to make a little extra money.
And his wife holding the kid.
Yeah. When I die, I will have a nice little plan for everything I have. Good. Glad to hear it. But this is like what I say about the VPNs. You know, like the VPNs are basically a scam to scam like old people that are afraid that like they're listening in on your phone. They can do that anyway. But basically, like this idea that like contracts and stuff, like if the full force of the federal government wanted to take your land, they absolutely could.
And they probably will eventually.
They will, and that's they don't have.
Which is why we need to crash the entire system.
Wait you out.
Let the tariffs destroy it all. I would rather build from scratch than try and quote unquote fix what we have, because the system itself isn't necessarily the issue. The system is bad, but it's not necessarily the issue. It's the people in the system, and the only way to get the people out of the system is to destroy the system and start with zero, because you can't weed out everything. So,
yeah, this is the mistake Trump made in his first term. He won. He had a database of people that were not in the government that were willing to work with him, because that's what he had to resort to get people to like keep his campaign going. And then he got in, and all the people that were against him 2 weeks beforehand, he hired.
And now we got Pam Bondi and Kash Patel that not giving us anything. We got only person doing anything is Big Balls and Doge.
Pictor says I have more firearms than most police agencies. I would not be writing that down.
Do you have more arms to wield those firearms than police?
Do you have more bodies?
Dude, every day, I kind of flip flop on this. I mean, Trump's, it's like one day is like fantastic and the next day is just doom. Like, I can't get a read on it. Maybe, I mean, you might be right. He might be just playing the game of trying to keep people a little bit of hope. Give them a little bit of hope and crush it.
So Nick says there's a split within his administration, and I guarantee that's what it is. I think Trump is kind of, we said this a while back, I think he's just out to lunch.
Well, I don't know why we don't have Stephen Miller kind of heading this war with the Jews up with the Jew. Like, also
okay,
have my FFL.
What's that?
Class 3? FFL is Federal Firearm License. You sell, buy, and sell. But yeah, it's a day-to-day thing at this point, man. Is Trump going to be Zionist today? I don't know. Is he going to be Zionist tomorrow? I don't know. I mean, the tariffs, I think, are good, and the stock market goes down. Yay. So they can know what I have all day long. My status is fine. Dude, I need to finish building that sniper rifle over there.
I wouldn't be saying that on recording either.
It'll be legal. They can come get it. I don't have it. I probably don't have as many firearms as Pictus does, but I know how to use the ones I do. That's what matters, Josh. That's what matters. What'd you do 35 years in the military? If I can ask or get an answer.
I agree with that. He says trust is not in one man, only trust in God and his son. I agree, but you do have to come to the table. Other people exist. You exist on a planet surrounded by people. You have to buy things. You have to sell things. You have to make a living.
And this is the case for Christian nationalism. This is
exactly
basically the case. Is we don't live in a vacuum. You have people. We can
That's
create
a good question. Would you be in favor of that, Pictish Prince?
Christian nationalism, not in a theocracy or a theonomy necessarily, being governed by priests, but a world or a nation in which a Christian prince, if you will, a Pictish prince, not just kidding, a Christian prince is kind of check and balanced against a Protestant, not establishment, but a Protestant collective, if you will. Specifically, I mean, in respect to America, obviously would differ across the world depending on what nation we're looking at. I was in what's called the United States Naval Construction Force. Yeah, I know what CBs are. Earned the rank of Equipment Master E9. Yeah, 35 years is a long time, dude.
I don't know about you, but I'm ready to wrap up.
CBs are pretty cool. We worked with them in
CBs.
in Spain. We did some work with CBs in Rota, Spain.
Our question was, are you in favor, would you be okay with Christian nationalism?
It would probably have to be defined for him to really answer the question.
I don't think, I mean, I think if he thinks all governments are by their nature socialism and therefore evil, I don't think a Christian nationalist society would satisfy
Yeah, I don't think so.
that.
Well, thank you for stopping by. If you enjoyed this, we'll probably finish up with pictures here in a second. If you enjoyed this, leave us a like, subscribe. Go check out Josh's channel, Josh Van der Noord. He would also post clips over there. Josh is going to start his own solo show too, so that'll be nice. And then also check out, well, my Twitter if you aren't afraid to get a little offended. Christian Nation is not a socialist organization.
Hey, a Christian nation is not a socialist organization.
Okay, we made a little. I think we made some progress, Josh.
Well, okay, so we're kind of, we're getting there. We're advocating for the same thing. Now we mean,
I mean, even Richard Dawkins and Elon Musk accept that cultural Christianity is better because they identify as cultural Christians, yet they deny God, or they deny Jesus Christ, which is God.
we may get them to a Christian nation, but not a Christian city.
Godly nation is not an organized city. Yes,
I agree.
I think we largely agree. I mean, you have to have. Yeah, that's right. We're good. Pictish.
Right.
Thanks for the conversation, brother.
A country and a nation are not the same thing. Totally agree. Thank you, Pictish.
I feel like this entire conversation has been like this, Josh.
I know. Like I've been like, hey, a boomer who's not so like down with Reagan, and then it's like cities are evil. It's like, whoa, hold the phone.
A country and a nation are
But you're
not
a good
the same.
sport.
But they inevitably should be, if that makes sense, right?
We will enjoy and have fun. You too, Pictish 76.
Thank you, sir. For everyone else watching, tell Pictish bye.
Adios.
But yeah, thank you. And Josh, anything else before we peace out of here? That was a good conversation. I'm glad he was able to keep up in the comments and not be getting mad at Double Team.
I know. Yeah, being a John Ward fan, I'm not surprised though. Good sports. I don't like baby. I don't like, because at my full-time job, we get a lot of baby interaction. Bunch of crybabies that pound and stomp their feet when they don't get all the airtime they want. Not talking about you, Joe. You know who I'm talking about.
But yeah, no, pretty good conversation today. I guess as I close this thing out, Trump tariffs, I'm all for. We can't judge it on 2 days. We can't judge it on a week. We can't judge it on 2 weeks, 2 months. I mean, this is a process, and I think we understood that Trump going into a second term where he's not looking for a re-election, on whatever Bannon says, third term, Bannon's an idiot. Give this thing some time. Give us a full term. Give us 8 years. It's going to take a lot to turn this thing around. Maybe he's Zionist, maybe he's not. I mean, tariffs are pretty anti-globalist, so check on our side, if you will. Thank you for joining us. Josh, tell the people bye.
Adios, people. Talk to you.